right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We've got about 80, up to 90 attendees, so that's great. We've got one person calling in on the phone. We will be recording this session, correct, Stephen? You push the button? Yes, Stephen has nodded affirmative. So we'll be recording this and we will get it sent out as a link. So if you need to rewatch this or if you are, would like to pass this on to one of your neighbors, just let them know it will come out. We will also be doing another one of these tonight at 5:30. So today's objectives really are just to give you some of the information you're probably really interested in right now, mainly talking about what will the day look like for my student while they're at Liberty, while they're attending Liberty virtual school to start the year. I'll also highlight some upcoming events and just kind of talk about some general topics. Our schedule today is we've got about 30 minutes total. So we're going to try, and I laugh because I've never given a 15-minute presentation in my life. Try to hold this to about 15 minutes and then give time for a Q&A at the end. So this format is a webinar format. And so you are all muted. So if there's noise in your background, don't worry, we can't hear you. We actually can't see you either. So there is a button at the bottom of your screen, it's a Q&A button. And if you can't actually see it right now, if you're on a mobile device, if you like tap your screen, you should see some options at the bottom. Two of the options are a chat and then a Q&A. Please hold typing in your questions for now because likely we will cover them as we go through. And then at the end, it helps us to start looking at the questions and answering them if they're ones that we haven't already answered. So we can answer them verbally. Some of them we might answer by responding directly to the question. Your question will come to us and not to others once we answer it. As a typed response, then others can see what the question was. I don't believe they know who asked the question. And ultimately, we will create a frequently asked questions document that will come out hopefully within a couple of days as we gather the questions that people are asking. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First, we want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between last year and this year. As we were kind of thrown into this situation last year, we had all of about a few days to plan all the aspects of how we were going to run our online school. And, you know, as we created it, we knew it wouldn't be perfect, but we also feel like we created something that fit as best it could the situation. Well, we've had time to learn both from feedback from parents, from our own observations, feedback from students, of course. And so distance learning 2.0 is something that we've put a little more thought into because we've had that time and space to do that. So we've refined what, and some of these terms and things we will define as we go. So students have been working on professional learning over the summer, both stuff that the district and the school has pushed out, and then obviously just things of their own creation and just going out and find that learning that they want. So we've been working on professional learning. We've also been really thinking about our communication. So, you know, we know that too little communication is bad and too much communication is just as bad. There's a sweet spot right there in the middle. And of course, everybody's a little bit different. So we're going to be making use of Parent Space. So if you have not really gotten into Parent Space yet, please do so. You don't have to create an account with Parent Space. You will automatically receive our communication. What you get by registering with Parent Space is you get the ability to tell it when and how you want your messages, and it allows you to communicate back to us. And so it's a two-way communication tool. Other things that we've been working on, you know, really thinking about how we will navigate this, help families navigate this process. And what we found was our teachers had some really great ways of communicating with teachers and pushing out their work, but it was all just a little bit different than the next teacher. And so all of these great methods became a jumbled mess for some families as they tried to help navigate their kid through it. And as much as possible, we're looking to create a familiar structure to what students are used to. And I've been reminded that it's actually called Parent Square, not whatever I said, Parent Space, I think. I think Space is a better name. All right, moving on. So speaking of technology, there it is, Parent Square. There's 4 big pieces of technology that we need parents and students to be familiar with. And some of these are new, some of these aren't. We have some 6th grade parents who are coming to us for the first time and haven't really used Skyward for much. So really quick, Google Classroom is where we will be sending, where the teachers will use to basically send information, send the activities, send the videos to their students. So it is that, that learning platform that we will be using. Zoom, of course, is what we are using right now. It is our video conferencing software, and it allows the teachers to do more things with the kids and provide a little more control than what we used last year, which was Google Meet. Parent Square, again, is our communication tool. And then Skyward is where we, usually it's where we take attendance daily. It's where we record grades, so you as a parent can get in and see exactly what's going on with the students' grades. We will have training videos for all of these. We will offer one-on-one tutoring sessions for any parent who wants it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, because I have a feeling my 15 minutes is already up. All right, so here's the big topic for today. And we're gonna spend some time talking about 6th grade, and then I'll briefly show you 7th and 8th grade. You're probably all staring at the picture on the right, but I'm going to try to draw your attention to the left information. So we had some constraints and objectives that we tried to follow as we created a schedule. First of all, around 4.5 hours of teacher-directed time on average per day, and some of these are defined from the state. Within that, we're going to have live classes for each class twice a week, and then what we're calling on-demand 3 times a week. You may hear people use the words synchronous and asynchronous kind of interchangeably with these. Synchronous to be synonymous with live classes, synchronous at the same time. On demand or asynchronous, meaning we don't all have to be doing it at the same time. So those are some on-demand lessons. We need whatever we create to be easy to evolve into an in-person model as we kind of switch into a hybrid model at some point during the school year. Big thing for us was minimizing how many classes a student had to navigate throughout the day, because we also found that was difficult for some of our families and kids to navigate. And more than anything, we just really want to keep this as simple as possible. All right, so let's take a look at the schedule. And again, like I said, this is 6th grade, but it'll mimic what you see on the other 2. So the direction we have gone here at Liberty is, and this mimics a lot of what's happening at our sister or brother Skyridge school across town, because we work very closely with them. So what we've got is, in a typical day at Liberty, you've got, on the schedule, you'll see 6 periods, 1 through 6. So what you're going to see here is that we have broken it up into essentially odd days and even days. This blue in the middle is elective, and we'll talk about that shortly. So let's just focus on the yellowish colors. So we've got period 1 and period 5 on Mondays. So those would be core classes. So this might be your math class. So the way we have structured is we have it's written in the calendar as a 50-minute core live class. So this would be a Zoom class. And then we've got it structured as a 50-minute on-demand or asynchronous class. And so the way this could work is, a student checks in the morning, they attend class, the teacher does some social emotional learning, answers some questions on the previous day's assignments, provides the opportunity for kids to work together in small groups, and then they can break out and then start working on some of the next assignments in the on-demand. We'll talk a little bit more about what live and on-demand look like. So that gives us basically a nice compact way of starting a lesson and completing all of their learning activities around a unit in one day. And then I'm going to skip electives. And then down here, this could be like your language arts class, repeating that same pattern. The elective in the middle, and this is really where our schedules differ by grade levels, is at 6th grade, our elective is in the middle of the day. At 8th grade, it starts the day, and at 7th grade, it ends the day. So the way we have structured things, normally at Liberty, in an in-person situation, we have electives rotating every other day with a health fitness class. Well, in an effort to minimize the number of classes that one student sees at a time, we have decided to go on a rotation where instead of doing an every other and having 2 classes to worry about, what we will instead be doing is having either the elective go for 6 weeks. Again, it depends on what a student's schedule is. It could start with health fitness. So we're just going to pretend like it's elective. So for the first 6 weeks, they'll have this elective every day. And again, you'll notice there's some live time and then there's some on-demand time. And this says 70 minutes. Please understand, we don't expect your students to be on a Zoom call for 70 minutes. This is going to have just some sort of built-in live and on-demand. You know, it could be that a teacher gets them started and then sends them off on a task and then brings them back at the end of the period to kind of check in with them. So some of this, a portion of this, half of this, I don't want to define it too much, will be used live, but then others, they'll be able to you know, work independently or in small groups. You have a 40-minute lunch in the middle of the day, and we have some brain breaks built in to the schedule. Just a kind of a nice little time to stretch and, you know, to kind of take care of some business between classes. To start our day, we've got this period built in. This will be when we play our Roaring News, which gives a lot of information about what's going on with school. We'll also probably be pushing out information that's pertinent to everybody, like social emotional lessons, and just other fun activities this is how we communicate with everybody in that time. This would also be a good time for kids just to get organized, make sure they've had their breakfast and are, you know, prepared for learning for the day. At the end of the day, we kind of have the opposite of that process. We've got, you know, this is a time to finish up some work, maybe send some emails to their teachers, or, you know, attend a one-on-one session with a teacher. This is also a time where the teachers will use to reach out to parents and talk to them. There's probably a lot more I could say about this. Mandy and Stephen, as I'm just realizing we forgot the big part of this, we have not introduced ourselves. I was so worried about the 15 minutes, I just glossed past that. Who are these people talking to you? So hey, let's start with that. So my name is Gary Mueller, by the way. I am the principal here at Liberty. This will be starting my fourth. I've lost track. It's been a weird year. I've been here a while. This is my team.
Yep, I'm Stephen Baranowski. I get to be an associate principal here. I think this is year number 9 for me at Liberty in a variety of different roles, and so I'm happy to be here.
Hi, and I'm Mandy Busby. This is my 3rd year at Liberty, and I think 13th year in the Camas School District, so go Lions.
And Mandy is also an associate principal, and if we're competing, this is my 25th year in Camas, so take that. I'm old. Okay. So I'm going to go through the next 2 schedules. Stephen and Mandy, if I've forgotten something you would like to point out, please jump in. So here's, again, it's the same exact thing for 7th grade. Obviously, this will all be sent home to you in a more, you know, usable format. So you can see how that all falls. And then we'll jump to 8th grade. By my watch, I have 2 minutes to hit 15 minutes. So as expected, I will go a little long. One of the reasons we have to keep this to about 30 minutes today is because there are other schools that will be presenting after us, and some of you will want to get to those. Also, we're sharing some licensing issues right now, so there could be some overlap problems. In other words, if I don't stop, they can't start. So what are we talking about with live and on demand? So live classes, as you can see on the screen, are teacher-led. They happen at a specific time. This is an opportunity for them to, you know, basically for a teacher to stand up, this would be the equivalent of standing up in front of a classroom and leading discussions, delivering some, you know, some small instruction, just being a teacher in front of their kids. We would, you know, discussions, support, feedback. This is where we're going to integrate social emotional check-ins and integrations. So really one of the big focuses this year is making sure that our kids are doing okay and have the tools to navigate both middle school and this online, this world that we're now living in. And again, we'll be using Zoom to conduct those live classes. The on-demand classes, those are going to be kind of more, you know, we don't do a lot of, you know, teacher lectures and things like that at the middle school, but this, you know, those opportunities when a teacher needs to deliver some content, What we're going to do with those is we're not going to really be wasting our live time for that because we want those to be interactions. So those will all be delivered sort of in this on-demand format where a teacher will make a short, engaging video, and then kids can either pause the video at the appropriate time and work on stuff and then start the video again, or it could be multiple short videos. This would be a time when kids could work on assignments, watch videos, work with their peers, and we'll be using Google Classroom to deliver that on-demand learning. Also during those asynchronous times or those on-demand times, that is when you will have the opportunity for teacher one-on-one support with kids. And I'm gonna move on. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here. This is kind of a day in the life. Again, we'll push this presentation out both in video and presentation form. So you can spend a little more time and just navigate through their day, much as we talked about with the schedule. Just briefly, I'm going to talk about these things because they'll bring up a lot of questions, and we'll have time to get into these more details later. So grading at the middle schools and elementaries are going to be on a standards-based grading, which simply means we'll be grading the students on whether or not they've met the grading standard as opposed to how many points they've earned on individual assignments. So we'll be grading students on basically 3 categories. Have they met or exceeded the standard? Are they progressing toward the standard? So some of the standards are year-long standards. So we wouldn't expect them to have met the standard, the first week of school. And so progressing is not, that is a positive statement. That is where most of the kids should be on the standards to start the year. And then moving towards meeting or exceeding. And then below standard, those would be for students who have not quite, who are not kind of where we need them to be at this time, or kids who need a lot of support, in other words, can't do the work without, a lot of help from another person. And then we'll be reserving insufficient evidence for those kids who really haven't provided us enough evidence to make a determination of the above. We will be doing attendance. It'll be reported daily. Some of that will come from live, with their attendance in their live classes. And then others will come from just some daily check-ins through their asynchronous or their on-demand work. Again, more details to come. I want to talk to you really quick about orientations and some other things coming up. For 6th grade, you've seen the information, it was sent home yesterday. We have a web orientation. This is a virtual online experience with our counselors and 8th grade students, helping and working with our 6th grade students. This will really just be about, it won't be about school specific, it'll just be about making connections and mentoring. And then each of the grade levels, starting on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd day of school, September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we will be having some version of an in-person, I don't really want to even call it an orientation, but a supply pickup, pick up anything that you need, meet your teachers from a safe distance, masks will be required. More information will come out on this. There may be limited transportation available. We need to work out some details on that. So again, please be on the lookout. On the days where your kids would not be coming, so in other words, these 8th graders are coming on the Thursday, they would be doing the online virtual school on the 1st and the 2nd. How can we support our kids' learning is a big question, and I know that this doesn't really answer a lot of it for those of you who are trying to navigate working from home or working, at your place of business and trying to support your kids. But here's just some of the things that you can work with them. I think one of the biggest is the mindset, and talk to them about that. School, a lot of kids, treat it like, oh, it's a snow day, I don't really have to do anything today, and that extended for months. That's not what this is. School is not a building. School is the experience of learning, and we're going to be providing them all the learning opportunities and support that they need to be successful. So really, we need to change that mindset that this is what school looks like right now. We're keeping supplies limited. We may need you, like if your kid is in an art class, they might need some colored pencils or some paints, but we'll let the teachers communicate that. We didn't want to have you go out and buy a bunch of stuff that you didn't need for a while. Communication. It's really important that we communicate with each other. And oftentimes what happens is we get communication once a parent is very frustrated. And what we're asking is, as you feel that frustration and like, I don't know what I'm doing, how is this supposed to be working? First sign of that, just let us, contact us and let us help you through that. And that way we can, you know, the big thing is we want to know what you're feeling, and you want to know how you can get support. And so we want to be able to communicate with you. This also talks about the fact that, you know, we need to be careful that we don't just gloss over the communication that goes home. We're going to be try and be very careful about how much we sent home. And at the beginning of the year, I would suspect it's going to be more information than, you know, a month in. It will be important for you to be able to support your kids if you know what we're communicating to them and to you. Get familiar with the technology that we referenced earlier. Watch some videos, attend some of our soon to be scheduled tutoring sessions, or just ask for some one-on-one help. And then we will be sending home weekly plans for the kids that should clearly lay out with all of the links and everything that they're going to need to be successful the next week. And this should be consistent across not only all grades at our school, but very consistent with what's happening at other schools, so that you have a familiar format in which to look for. Okay, moving on. Just want to quickly touch on these 3 additional topics. We do have a number of highly capable students at Liberty. Those are kids who have been gone through a test and need slightly different learning experiences than their peers. So we will be serving their needs through a cluster. Kids will be clustered together through several of our different sections. So we will not have just one class of highly capable students, but there'll be groups of 5 to 7 kids working together in each section. The same would be said about our students with individual learning plans or on IEPs or 504s. Our special ed staff is eager and waiting to work with your kids, some of which will be happening virtually. And then we're working on the logistics of finding opportunities to bring kids into the building, you know, some of it on the Wednesday. Wednesday, we didn't really point this out, but Wednesday is the all on demand day. And that is a day where teachers will be working with kids, planning for the next week. They'll be working individual with kids. They'll be working with their teams to make sure that we're all being very consistent. And so we're going to be looking for opportunities, not just IEP students and 504 students, but really any student who is struggling to be successful in an online environment. We'll be looking for ways to get them in the building as the guidelines permit it. And again, more information on that at another time. And then finally, I want to talk about advanced math at 7th grade. And wow, I've gone way over my 15 minutes, which we knew was going to happen, let's be honest. Advanced math has been a question that a few people have had. I can't go into the entire story of advanced math, but essentially I want to let you know that if you have a 7th grader who's interested in advancing in mathematics so that they're prepared for algebra as 8th graders, then all students will be taking 7th grade math in the 7th grade. And then there'll be the opportunity for kind of a 0 period, a class outside of the schedule I showed you, to take the additional 8th grade topics. The short 15-second version is, even in this world where it was difficult enough to try and squeeze 7th and 8th grade standards into 1 year. But in this year where we have to prioritize even further, it would be impossible to make sure the kids are fully prepared for algebra by doing anything other than having kids take 2 math classes. All right, this was really quick and fast. I apologize. We do have some time for questions, and Gail Gast is on here, and I'm sure she'll let me know when I have to stop. So we'll take as many questions as we can, and then we'll have the copy of all the questions, and we will put out a frequently asked questions document at a slightly later time. So now is the time, if you have not already done so, to jump onto that Q&A button and start adding your questions. Please kind of ask the high-level questions that you think will pertain to more people. If you have a specific question about your kid, then please just email me directly, and I'll respond as quickly as I can.
Mr. Moeller, we have a question about how long will 6th grade orientation be on the 26th?
On the 26th, it's an hour and a half. I believe it's from 9. Did we skip a slide, Stephen? I think I just went too fast. 9 to 10:30, I believe, is the scheduled time. And there's information was sent home through Parent Square yesterday. You're muted, Mandy.
We have another question about when schedules will be released.
That is a great question. We're actively working on scheduling kids right now. Our hope is to have them middle of next week, towards the end of next week, which, you know, is almost as late as they possibly could be. Our intent for the sixth grade parents who may not be as familiar with Skyward is we will be certainly emailing specifically the sixth grade schedules home, and depending on the time frame and how it all work out, the schedules will be available for everybody through Skyward. And so if you were familiar with how to access Skyward and the kids are familiar, then you can find the schedules that way. But our intent will be to mail them home to everybody, email them home to everybody, and specifically the sixth graders.
We also have a question about, do we need to buy planners?
We will not have planners this year. So no, in fact, we're really no fees that we're requesting at this time. The only fee that might be in your near future will be the assurance fee for the Chromebooks. That protects the kids and you if something happens with the Chromebook, an accidental drop or something like that, so that you don't have to do a full replacement. While I'm on Chromebooks, please, if you haven't either gotten a Chromebook, if you're a new student, or if you're still using one of the older Chromebooks from last year, on the 26th, the same day as the web orientation, but multiple times throughout the day, there's an opportunity for you to sign up to go up to Odyssey, where they're going to be doing sort of a drive-by Chromebook swap out for students to get those new Chromebooks. And then I'm optimistic, but I haven't heard back from the tech department yet, that we'll have some available for anybody who misses that at our orientation day that we talked about.
Mr. Mueller, we have a question about early release and when that happens.
Early release are on the master calendar that the district put out. We haven't written that schedule yet. I will tell you that normally what that means is school's out at 1:25 if this was a normal situation. And so we'll have more information about those. They are on the calendar. They happen one Wednesday a month. And so there will be one in September, but it won't be till the third week, I believe.
We also have a question about band still being offered.
I'm going to pass that over to Stephen. He works with our elective classes. I think he'll be able to give you a better answer than I can.
Yeah, so band, we're going to have band at 7th and 8th grade as more traditional band. At 6th grade, we're going to start with really an understanding of music. So all 3 grade levels will have a band class. There will be instruments involved at first at 7th and 8th grade. At 6th grade, we might hold off on instruments for a little while, go into more of the understanding of music in general, and then maybe introduce instruments later on than we typically would in the school year.
Mr. Mueller, also, we would need some more clarification on demand and live. What does that look like a little bit more?
I don't want to go too deep into this because I think it's something we can kind of maybe address more in a specific video about that we can push out. But essentially, live would be what we're doing right now, other than giving you the permission to kind of talk back to me as well. But this is a version of the live class. So we don't want to waste this time doing kind of what we just did right now, which is just direct it this way, because that could be done in a video. What we want to be able to do is use this valuable time for interactions back and forth with the students, much like we are at this point in the game where we're doing questions and answers. But this is a special format because we have such a big group. We had up to 190 people in this meeting at that time, and so that wouldn't really be feasible if you all wanted to talk to me at the same time. So that's kind of what a live session is going to be. It's going to be that traditional relationship building, working with students, part of being a teacher. And then this part where I'm like, okay, now let's read 5 pages of this book and discuss. Like, we don't need to all sit on a Zoom meeting while we read 5 pages together. So that would be done in an on-demand situation. And then the discuss would then happen during the live session. There's all kinds of options. You know, we don't want to just have you sitting there on Zoom doing homework, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So we would want to, those would be things that would be done in the on demand. We know you're going to have more questions about that. We will get you more information as we get closer.
Mr. Baranowski, can you go ahead and answer about sports?
Yeah, it looks like we're getting a few questions about that. Right now, WIAA is the state governance of all of our sports at the high school and middle school levels. And so their guidance right now is to postpone all sports till January at the earliest, and then compact the seasons from there. And so right now, we are really interested in trying to hold sports if we're able to return in person to school this year. And so we are hopeful that we'll be able to offer as many opportunities as possible. And so if that does not become the case, that we can offer in-person sports, then we'll pursue other options about what can we do distance-wise to connect with families and to athletes that want to be involved in something, and try to be creative with some opportunities we might be able to come up with.
All right, Mandy and Stephen, I've been told we've got between 5 and 10 more minutes that we can go. So we'll keep going if you need to jump off. Thank you for attending, and we're here to answer your questions. Just send us an email, give us a call. What else you got, guys?
Some parents were asking about IEPs and who would be contacting them and who is their case managers.
So yes, the case managers are mostly split up by grade level. So Mary Gould is the teacher that handles, as long as it isn't like a district directed program or something like that, she handles most of the 6th grade. Bree Ellis handles 7th grade, and Jennifer Ireland handles 8th grade. We do have a new school psychologist this year. Her name is Leah Campbell. And so she's currently getting up to speed on things right now. But you should hear from those teachers that I've just mentioned a minute ago. But if you have specific IEP questions, please go ahead and send them to us, or if you know your case manager, send it to them, and we will answer those specific questions.
I don't have answers. Oh.
Mr. Baranowski, what about recording of 6th grade orientation or web or any of the orientations?
Yeah, so the 6th grade web orientation, the piece about that is we don't record students' pictures or voices, and so that's all going to be interactions between our 8th grade and 6th grade students, and so that web orientation isn't something we'd be able to record. There are some components of it that we will be recording, like introductions of our 6th grade staff, and so we'll compile that into one video and then get that pushed out. But a lot of that, the bulk of that time is really going to be spent 8th graders talking to 6th graders about their experiences and some words of wisdom about entering into middle school years.
Yeah, I believe that the strength of that day is the interactions between the kids, and so a live recording just wouldn't necessarily be appropriate.
Mr. Mueller, we also have some questions about how to get email addresses for 6th graders and some problems with tech and Chromebook issues.
So emails for 6th grade teachers is, I assume, what the question is, and what we were planning is to have an information sheet specifically at that orientation day. We can also send something home through Parent Square. So we hope that each teacher, our intention is for at that orientation day, not only will they just quick meet and greet with their teachers, they'll also get an information sheet. And our website is in various stages of accuracy. So we will, it's on the priority list. It's just been, pushed down as we've just, tried to work on some of these other things. So we'll work to make sure our website is accurate to get those email addresses as well. In terms of if you need help with the Chromebooks, apparently tech is pretty slammed right now, and so they're not currently monitoring that information that they've put out last year, the different ways of getting assistance. And so if you're having some tech problems, for now, why don't you direct that our way, and we'll do what we can to get that resolved for you.
Some are asking for a review of the our big four.
Okay, let's see if I can get to that real quick. So our big four, again, is, Zoom, I think is obvious. This is our, what we're using right now. Parent Square, this is again our, used to be Blackboard. This is our way of doing mass communication with groups or entire school. This is where we're gonna put those important things out. This is also, and this is gonna be a new aspect, this is the way that that teachers will communicate with parents, especially as like a broadcast for their entire class. Likely they will still use email for kind of one-on-one communication, but this is how they'll communicate out. This is where you'd expect to find that week at a glance I briefly mentioned. And so Parent Square is something you can access right now. I believe that everyone was sent information on how to register for that. I'm not 100% positive on that. So if you're struggling with something relating Parrot Square, if you let me know, then I can get that information and push it out. Google Classroom, for those of you who were with us last year, that's something that we've used in the past and we will continue to use. Google Classroom is simply, it's a way of really, it's more than this, but I'm going to say it in a very basic way, but please understand it's much more sophisticated than this. You know, if I was going to hand you an assignment to work on or write something on the board in class, that's what I would do. I would just write it on the board or I'd hand you something to work on. Google Classroom is how we can now push and deliver that out to students. Skyward is where you can find your schedules. This is also where attendance is used. This used to be, Skyward used to be, before we went to online, it used to be everything. Like that's where we would direct a parent to go to learn about like how their kid is doing on their grades and things like that. Things are changing a little bit, and so we will provide more guidance on the best way to use Skyward versus Google Classroom. Skyward is going to take a smaller role than it used to, but it'll still be valuable to understand and to check in with.
Mr. Moeller, to add on to Skyward, some are asking how they get the logins.
That is a great question, and Stephen or Mandy, if you know the answer, it's not something I've reviewed recently, so I'm going to have to look into that. So we will push information out.
Yeah, and if you email any one of us, we can get you that information. And so if you specifically are struggling to get in, we can reset your password or do anything like that to help you out. And so if you send us an email, we can definitely help you out with that.
And Mr. Moeller, to some on top of the tech, if they have bad internet connection, what are our district plans for that?
I've only heard early discussions on that, so I don't know where things have landed or where we're at right now, but there is discussion about, you know, the district looking into hotspots and things like that maybe students could use. We'll probably still have our buses that will go out as mobile hotspots, which I understand is limited at times. But for example, I think one of the buses parked like at the Fern Prairie Market for most of the day. And so kids could at least come down and jump on that way. All of our schools, certainly the parking lots, you can access the internet from, and the public library. So those aren't ideal situations because in a perfect world, we have everybody being able to use what they need from home. I know that I haven't reviewed recently, but Comcast had either waived or dropped their fees dramatically for families who had some financial needs. But in terms of if you live way out in the boonies, I'm not sure that there is a great solution. But if you, again, email me your specific situation, I will get you a better answer than that.
Mr. Baranowski, can you go ahead and address what a student email looks like, just to refresh that?
Yeah, so if your student gets onto a Gmail account through their Chromebook, they'll log in with their username. And so it's their first dot last name at csd117.org. So it's their first dot last name at csd117.org. Their email system only allows them to email within people within the Camas School District. So teachers and other students, they can't email out to any other places. It's just contained within our school district.
And we're also getting a few more questions about grades, and just let everyone know we'll have more information of that coming out and what standards-based grading looks like and those kind of things to come soon.
All right, we've probably got time for one or two more questions. So Mandy or Stephen, do you have like any other good themes out there that have bubbled up?
We just got a question about school pictures.
Okay, school pictures. Well, for now they're on hold. We are hopeful that we can get pictures in and get a yearbook as an offering for students. But right now, the pictures are on hold. And my hope is that we'll get those going at least when we get into a hybrid model where we get you in the building for a couple days a week. So more information to follow.
And I think, Mr. Mueller, if you could just clarify maybe that first week of school, what it looks like and times, and then also the school day. Is it the 9 to 3:10 and what we kind of expect for kids?
Sure. We want to make sure, like, we're looking for a balance of rigid and structure because some kids really need that. And we also want to provide some flexibility. So if you look here, we've got 9 to 9:30. This would be a time where kids are getting ready for school. As much as we can possibly do it, we really don't want kids just waking up at 9:25, rolling over in their bed and turning their camera on. Like that's not them ready for school. That's not necessarily maybe an appropriate thing to portray to the other students. So this would be a time where, just like you would at home, let's get our breakfast, let's get ready for the day, let's watch the roaring news. Obviously, this is not we're not guiding that, we're not forcing that in any way, but this would be something as a family that, again, we set up those structures that this happens. And so then they hopefully have a location where they can work and spend their time for the day that is as free from distraction as possible. And we know there's limitations on that. And then the end of the day, same thing, like the structured on-demand things. The structured live classes you'll see all happen at 1:30 and are done by 2:10. Now, again, flexibility. This on-demand class, if a kid wants to maybe work on that at 7 o'clock that night, that is fine. We don't have a problem with that. In a lot of cases, the work that you do in this on-demand class will support the next time you're in your live class. And so there will be some time constraints on some of this, just to make sure your education experience is full. A perfect example of this is if I, as a teacher, have asked you to read 10 pages in a novel and we're going to discuss it the next time. If you haven't read those 10 pages, you can still benefit from the discussion of the other kids, but you won't be able to participate yourself. And that would then mean you've got a less experience. So other than that, I wasn't sure. Was there more about the schedules, Mandy, part of that?
No, I think that was good. Just why the difference maybe a little bit between Liberty and CCA and the focus on parent involvement.
I'm not 100% sure about the parent involvement piece in terms of CCA. I can talk in brief comparison. So the Campus Connections, they're going to be using something called Apex, which is a software. And so all of the learning, and I say all, I don't know all, but that is my understanding, that all or most of the learning will be delivered through this Apex software, which is, just it's not this, but it's like a Khan Academy. It delivers something and you do something and it records it, and there's not a lot of teacher interaction. All right, I'm being told my time is up, so I'll wrap it up here in the next 30-second scale. And limited teacher involvement. There's one teacher per 54 is the number I've heard for Apex. And so you'll notice in our schedule, there are all of these on-demand days that we have, all of these on-demand times. These are gonna be times when your teachers are available to work with kids one-on-one, small groups, and not to mention in all of these live sessions. So you will be supported as much as you normally would be, just in a virtual setting. So this is very teacher relationship centered, and where Apex is much more independent and not as teacher focused. That is all the time we have today. I want to thank you for coming. If you want to hear me maybe do this faster tonight, feel free to attend at 5:30, and then look for those frequently asked questions and email us anything you have. All right, thank you very much, and have a great